We are here with Dr. Dwayne Elmore, and he is our Natural Resource Ecology and Management Specialist here at OSU Extension. And Dr. Elmore, you're going to talk to us about a few critters that we might be finding in our home and in our garden today. We're going to talk about the possum, the raccoon, and the skunk. Now, why are we talking about these three together?
Well, generally they can cause similar damage around the home, and sometimes people don't even know maybe what they're dealing with. They're just seeing a type of damage, and it could be one of those three, and we can control them with similar methods.
So what's some of the damage that we might be seeing?
So probably the more common complaints are I have an animal under my deck or under my house, or it's in my attic, or something's eating my cat's food at night, or something's getting in my trash cans at night.
Okay, so if we think we have one of these three and we're not sure, because they're all nocturnal, correct? And so
by and large,
we
yeah.
might not see them,
correct,
but we see the damage. What can we do about that?
Well, if it's an attic or under your house, those are easy, just exclusion. You know, seal the holes where they're getting in, and that'll be a permanent fix for that issue. If it's a trash can, use something really sturdy like a metal trash can, or really heavy plastic that has a bungee strap that the animals just can't open, and that should take care of that problem. If it's animal food that they're consuming, like, you know, you left cat food or dog food out overnight, just make sure you don't leave it out overnight. Just take up the food, whatever your pet didn't eat at the end of the day. And so if you do those things, most of the problems are going to go away.
Okay, and obviously you want to do that exclusion, you know, before you know they're in your home. You don't
Correct.
want to do it and trap them inside your home.
Correct.
But if that's not working, is there another alternative? I mean, can we trap these, and what is legal to do with these animals?
Yeah, good question. We can trap them, and there's different size traps. For skunk, for example, a trap that has maybe a 6 or 7 inch opening, like this one, is appropriate. And for larger animals, opossums and raccoons, this larger 10 or 12 inch opening trap is ideal. And we want to bait that. You'll place the bait behind the pan here, and you can use sardines or tuna fish. That works just fine. You don't have to get real fancy with it. And generally, you'll catch the animal pretty quick. Raccoons, opossums, and skunks are all fairly easy to capture. So then once you capture, it's like, well, what do I do with it?
Right.
So legally, you cannot take that animal and release it on someone else's property unless you have permission from that landowner.
Okay.
So that's important to know. You can't just take it anywhere you want. You need permission.
Now, if it's your own land, can you take it further away on the North 40 or something
like that? You can,
Okay.
yes. And if you don't want to deal with it at all, you can call a nuisance wildlife control operator. They're licensed by the state, and you can go on the wildlife department's website and find a list of those by county.
Okay.
If you have a skunk, that's maybe something you want to call somebody to help you with. But if you want to deal with it yourself, often the skunks will be asleep in the trap, and you can walk up quietly and place a tarp or some heavy burlap over the trap and then move the trap. That doesn't mean that they won't spray, but if they do decide to spray, you should be more or less protected by the tarp.
Okay, all right. So can you trap throughout the year? Is there a certain season that we're supposed to do this?
You can kill skunks year-round,
okay,
legally. Raccoons and opossums are fur bearers, and you can only kill them during December, January, February, during the fur bearer season, and you would have to have a hunting license and a fur bearer license. Most homeowners probably are not going to have those things, so if you happen to trap a raccoon or opossum, probably the best thing to do would be to call one of those nuisance wildlife control operators, and they can help you with it.
Okay, well, one thing we have a lot of chickens, and so we'll get possums in our chicken coop. What can you do about that?
That is an exception to the rule. If the animal is causing livestock loss, and that would generally be poultry in the case of possum and raccoon, then you can kill that animal. Okay. So that's an exception to the rule about not being able to shoot them year-round.
Okay, so that is legal to do if they're in your poultry year-round.
Correct.
Okay.
And the most humane way, if you are going to kill that animal, is to shoot them. Certainly, drowning is very inhumane. You know, don't do that.
Okay. So a lot of times when we trap things, we put a trap out, it's got food in there, we might get something other than the pest that we're seeking.
Yeah.
What happens if we find another critter. Is there other things that are tempted to get into traps sometimes?
Yeah, especially with these larger size traps, you'll often catch a cat, someone's cat. So if it has identification, then you should call the homeowner or the cat's owner. And if it doesn't have identification, if you're in a city, call the animal control officer, because almost all cities require cats to be properly tagged and identified. So you'd call the city in that case. And yeah, you're probably going to catch a cat. And a lot of times actually the damage that people are seeing, especially if it's eating your pet's food at night, oftentimes that's actually what it's going to turn out to be, is a cat, not a raccoon.
Okay.
But regardless of what animal you're dealing with, I'd recommend wearing heavy gloves when you're handling the trap, just to prevent the animal from biting through the cage or scratching through the cage. Most of these traps have these metal plates where the handle is, and that's to protect you. And also, after the animal's out of the trap, spray the trap down with a bleach solution to disinfect it.
So a lot of times skunks might also do damage to our lawn, is that correct?
Yeah, sometimes they'll do shallow digging similar to armadillo. It's usually just little conical, 2 or 3 inches deep, and there'll be lots of them in the turf. You know, if it's Bermuda turf that can close back in rapidly, it's not a big deal. If it's fescue turf, it can be a little more damaging. You can cut back on irrigation if that's an option. Often that'll help, because the skunk is after grubs and earthworms that are close to the soil surface. But if that doesn't work, you can trap them with the same methods we described earlier.
Okay, and then I know with raccoons, one of their favorite things is sweet corn. So how do we protect our sweet corn?
So if it's a small patch of sweet corn, there are a couple options. The most expensive and the most foolproof is exclusion fencing. And of course, raccoons can climb, so you can put a single strand of electric wire on the top of that to keep them from going in. That's quite pricey, and that may not be an option. A simpler thing that you can do, it's not as foolproof, but it can help, is when the ear is getting close to maturity and it's mostly filled out, but maybe the sugar content's not quite high enough that you want to harvest it, go out with Teflon tape or a little black tape, and just towards the end of the ear, put a little piece of tape that makes it more difficult for that raccoon to pull the husk off. And that will lessen the amount of ears that they damage, at least.
Thank you, Dr. Elmore, for all this great information. And for more information, you can go to this fact sheet.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.